right?
Well,
Because like,
even the houses that were so back in, we'll say, the crazy times, right? So back
sure,
with COVID, when everything was nutty,
yeah, where people were
um,
stabbing each other for a house. Yeah,
for real,
yeah.
right? Like so.
Okay, did you hear it?
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is round two. This is round
Round
two.
dose.
Round two, man. I know we tried it yesterday, but the audio just sounded like hot
Complete soup.
garbage. Yeah, yeah. So, we'll kind of recap kind of a lot of stuff we at least talked about yesterday. And,
Yeah.
what we'll do is we will, in a nutshell, kind of just, again, why we brought you on or why I brought you on. There's no we, it's me, myself, and
Because I'm awesome. That's why.
I. But yeah,
Block out
so
this.
what is that?
I was trying to see if I can block out this glare.
Well,
Mm.
why don't you shift your are you on your laptop?
Yeah.
Tilt it forward.
Then you can't see me.
Are you sitting down? Or are you standing up?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
Standing up.
Okay.
Whatever. Here's what it is.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Whatever. All right.
But yeah, so we'll bringing you back on, dude. This is dose number two. So this would be my podcast number two. But yeah, so I know for a quick backstory for a lot of people that don't obviously really know you, it's you and I've been connected at the hip for about 6 years now, and you did the traditional real estate, which you still do,
Mm-hmm.
but you've leaned heavily into the auction, and it's kind of again, we'll kind of do a little bit of talking of like, who's the right clientele for
Yeah.
an auction, and what, and then maybe like in what situations would an auction not be a very viable option, right? So, yeah, go ahead. You can introduce yourself. You do your thing and all that.
Okay. Yeah. My name is Adam Davis. I am the original bearded guy at Clarksville, as most people know me.
The OG.
I run I'm the team leader for the Bearded Home Group. I've probably had what, 6, 8 agents over the years. It's currently just me and another guy, Kenneth. Right now, I'm the training and development broker for Byers and Harvey here in Clarksville. So kind of like a managing broker kind of concept,
Yep.
but not like the managing broker, if that makes sense. Um, and then I also co-run the American Realty and Auction out of Charlotte, Tennessee, as a principal auctioneer. So, and I'm also a licensed agent in Kentucky, and I'm also a principal auctioneer, and I am the principal auctioneer for American Realty and Auction in Kentucky. So doing everything on basically both sides of the line. Been a top producer in the conventional real estate space for 5, 6 years now.
Hmm.
Still do quite a bit of it. And then got into the auction thing a while back, and it's really been a massive game changer in a lot of ways. Not necessarily just for me, but for a lot of clients, a lot of other agents. Really being able to kind of attack things from a different angle to
Right.
get products moved for people, get properties moved for people, and really kind of help. It's just another creative solution. To go through, and we'll get into it a little bit later, obviously, but it's not what people think. I teach a class.
Hmm.
It's called leveraging an auctioneer in your real estate business. And every time I teach a class, like we got another one here at this one's at Veterans United on the 27th of this month
How dare
from
you put
11
another?
to
How dare you put another company on this podcast?
Hey, we're
Yeah.
going to you. We're going to you. We're going to you next month. But yeah, I'm doing it there again too, because some people asked us to do one at a local, a neutral place, if you will, on this side of
Sure.
town.
Sure.
So we're doing it there again, and everybody that always attends the class is like, "Dude, this is not what I thought it was," and
Sure.
it never is because everybody thinks it's like pennies on the dollar and all. Like we're gonna give this house away for $5, and it's not that at all, man. It's
Right.
really not that at all.
Well,
So yeah, I mean, it's me.
yeah, and I think I think I brought up the point yesterday is I understand, and I've seen your frustration when you've tried to explain it to, trying to tell an agent like, "Hey, this is just my suggestion. Maybe we look at the
Hmm.
auction route." And then again, that defensive wall just comes up
Oh
because
yeah,
they are just totally defensive about like their territory. This is my seller. I don't need your help. I will figure it out essentially. But again, the analogy I used yesterday was, it's no different than me trying to say, hey, for a buyer looking to buy in Nashville, that the lender down there is saying that, hey, the VA loan is garbage. You need to do conventional. When in reality, it's just because they don't know anything really about the VA loan.
100%.
And it's just about the education part. But then,
Hmm.
even though sometimes, no matter what you say or what you do, I mean, some of those people are just set in their ways, and you can't tell them otherwise. So I understand your frustration because I see it on my side as well. But
The newer agents, and I say newer,
yeah,
maybe newer is a bad word. People that aren't
um,
as set in their ways, I guess
sure,
you could say.
like coachable.
Um, Perfect. Good
Yep,
way. Good
yep,
word.
yep.
Um, they're more receptive and open to it only because they're receptive and open to it.
Sure.
A lot of the agents that are very much just kind of closed off and they're
Yeah.
like, I've been doing this for 500 years and I know more than everybody.
Right.
Yes. Does the house sell? Yes. Can you list the house and get it gone? Yes, not a problem. Can you do it in a said time frame? No, you can't guarantee that. I can.
Right.
Can you nearly guarantee a price on the way out? No, you cannot, and neither can I, but I can get pretty close to what it's going to be, and I can also move things around to make that number kind of happen.
Sure.
Um, can you can you deal with the whole estate, meaning personal property and everything? No, you can't, but I can.
Right.
It's an easy, I say easy button, not because it's easy, but it is an easy button for that seller. And I guess my frustration, to be kind of frank or honest about it, is my frustration is yes, I completely understand the mindset of this is my seller and I want to do best for them and I want to make sure they everything gets taken care of for them. I completely understand that, respect that, and I'm behind you on that. What I'm not behind and what the frustration is I'm offering a solution to you and your seller
Right.
that is mutually beneficial for everybody
Right.
involved. And is literally probably your best bet when it comes to I mean, we're talking 10% of all, every properties, right?
Sure.
We're not talking 90, we're not talking all of them. We're talking like 10% of the properties.
Right.
This 100% really does make sense. And it's probably the better option, for them. And so to kind of dig into that, I guess a little bit more would be, in my class I kind of break it down. I talk about all jokes aside, but like you got like your crack houses, right? Like it's I mean, like it's an investor special, you know what I mean? And I'm
Sure.
not and there's different levels of that, you know what I mean? Like there's different levels of that. And then you have your normal everyday subdivision, like I talked about yesterday a little bit. I was like, you got your Farmington house or your
Yeah.
you know your stuff like those don't really excite me because they're a dime a dozen. The same
Sure.
house is four doors down. That's not really a great concept. And then you've got your luxury homes, which are well, you got your big land houses, let's put like
Right.
farmhouses, right? And then
Yep.
you've got your luxury homes, right?
Right.
So the big farmhouse, sometimes they make sense and sometimes they don't.
Well, and
Um,
you know what? And I think you bring up a good point because just like we had that client looking, he hit me up prior to us, talking yesterday,
mhm.
and it was that house in Kingston where it wasn't a
Yeah,
house, but it was commercial, but they have it
no,
listed as
perfect.
residential, right?
That was a perfect.
Yeah, and it had multiple properties on it and things like that, and I try to explain to them like, hey, from the lending side, it will be a huge problem. You're not going to be able to get traditional financing.
Well,
Um,
and with that too, Dan, like
right,
so and I'm not trying to beat anybody up, but it's like uh, the agent that lists that house is somewhat misrepresenting
sure.
what that is.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
it's a little bit of a gray area. I'm not going to say they're wrong necessarily, as a with my broker hat on, if you will.
Sure.
They're not necessarily wrong with what they're saying, but it is misleading. Because
Yeah,
that is not a R1 normal everyday. That's not what that is.
Yeah.
And if you're advertising it with additional cabins, dwellings, whatever you
Right.
want to put on there, now you're starting to get in that whole thing where, like you talked about yesterday, when you're going to have to get a bank loan for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be a perfect property for an auction because I
Yeah.
can, it's as is where as how is, and I'm going to find somebody who probably has money to buy that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and again, I think that's a lot of people don't understand that either is I mean, you technically can get traditional financing on your auction houses, but
oh yeah, 100%.
I think just to an extent, right? In the
Hmm.
aspect of like, and I think that's why you and I are successful with it is because you know what's going to work and what's not, right?
1000%.
But I think that's what is going to kind of separate or help a lot of people understand that hey, you as a buyer's agent, you can like you said, you can still get paid.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. Even if your buyer wants to go to this auction and buy it, as long
100%.
as you talk, they talk to you, or you and the agent talk and saying, hey, this client wants to do VA or this client wants to do conventional or FHA.
Yep.
You can say, hey, don't see a problem. This should be fine. Just understand if there's any repairs that comes up, they're going to be in
Yep.
charge of it, not us.
And we had a few last year
Yeah.
that were VA buyers.
Hmm.
Um, and there were a couple repairs had to get made.
Yep.
And you know what? I went out there, I made sure I got the repairs taken care of, not a big
Yeah.
deal. But up front, when I'm looking at a house, like, well, I literally just got back from getting the keys from the bank trustee for an estate sale.
Sure.
Um, and going through the house again for the second time,
Yep.
looking everything over, and I got a little bit more excited about it only because the house is 100% good to go. It's 100% turnkey ready. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing that I can see that's going to get flagged anything, honestly, for
Yeah.
VA wise.
Sure.
So that's very exciting for me because again, that's more marketing ability that we can do for that house because now I can say, hey, VA, FHA, conventional, cash, whatever you want, it will work on this house, and you could bid on this house, and it'll work.
Yeah.
There's been a handful of houses that I have auctioned off that when the agents call me, well, for example, the one I did out in Sango, the last one I did last year out in Sango,
Mhm.
a lot of people wanted that house as a VA purchase. A
Right.
lot of agents were bringing people by as a VA purchase. I told them, I was like, look, guys, there's a lot of red flags going off on this house, and it's not that any of them are uncorrectable or not overcomable, right? Like
Yeah.
they're all easily dealt with. But it's not the fact they're easily dealt with, it's the fact that the appraisal is going to be an issue.
Sure.
So if you didn't, and it was going to be probably, I would say 20 grand would probably get you through the appraisal gap on that,
Hmm.
being that
Hmm.
fixing that stuff. But again, that's you're gonna pay X amount of dollars for your buyer's premium up front, and then knowing that you're gonna have to come out with another 20 grand just to be able to get to closing.
Yeah.
I think that was where, but I was honest with everybody up front. I'm like,
Yeah.
look, you do you, boo boo, but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like it's going to cost you some money out of pocket to be able to get this over the finish line. Not that it's
Yeah.
not doable, but it's gonna take you a little bit to get over the finish line.
Right.
And I think that's where one of the probably the biggest misconceptions with auctions is on the buyer side with agents is you can get financing. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that every single house you can get financing for, or every single house is going to. I'm not at all. Like I think
Right.
going to look at it and looking at it from the lens of what's going to get popped on an appraisal. And if you've been doing this more than 2 days, like you kind of already have an understanding of what's good chance it's going to get popped on an appraisal.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
but going through that, most people think that you bring in cash and cash only. The other biggest misconception with it is I guess,
That you're always going to get a deal.
yeah,
Like,
I'm trying to find a way to say this better, but yeah, I mean that's really what it is. Everybody thinks that, oh well, if I show up and I bid $25, he's
right.
going to be did it $25 sold to you because I'm the one who showed up. That's not. So there's two different types of auctions. There's
Okay.
a absolute auction
Sure.
and there's a reserve auction. So if if I book something on an absolute, legally speaking, it has to go for the highest bid, period, end of story.
Okay.
So if it's a snowstorm and some dude shows up and he bets a quarter, 25 cents,
Right.
I have to sell it to him for 25 cents. If it's a reserve auction, which is 99.9% of all freaking auctions are going to be a reserve auction,
Hmm.
the seller can put a reserve on it. Well, hey, I don't want to sell. I don't want to take any less than 250,000 for my house. Yep, Roger that. So then we bid. Say we get to 230, and I'm like, well, we can't get nothing over 230. And I say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hold this bid. I'm going to go talk to sellers. I go talk to sellers. Say, hey, sir, this is where we're at. We're at 230. I know you wanted 250. What would you like to do? And he can say, yes, I want to go ahead and drop the hammer and sell it, or no, I don't. It's
Right.
his decision. And if
Right.
he says
Right.
no, I don't, I said, you got it. I'll walk back over, get back on the mic, and say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for showing up today, but we did not meet the seller's reserve, so we're not selling this house today.
Gotcha.
So we can, I mean, it can stop now, and I can also start a reserve auction and then turn it into an absolute. I just can't go the other way back. If it starts as an absolute, it stays an absolute. There's no way to turn to
Right.
a reserve.
Yeah.
And then there's some other rules and stuff besides who can bid and stuff like that when it's a reserve. If it, I mean, or excuse me, if it's an absolute. But that's a whole nother thing in itself. But
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally, right? What if you were talking about um, giving your best foot forward, meaning you're getting ready to, okay, think about like an elevator speech is what I call it. Okay.
okay,
You got 30 seconds to tell me or summarize what is the ideal client or the ideal situation for an auction or an auction
perfect.
house.
Um, I would like somebody with a decent amount of equity in their house.
Okay.
If we're talking about a house, right? I want somebody with a decent amount of equity in their house, so that way, if in fact it does go a little bit short, we're still going to be okay to close.
Sure.
I need somebody who is my ideal client is also somebody who they don't have to, but if they're on a timeline,
Right.
because that really props me up more because I can do this within X amount of I can do this within 5 weeks and have your house sold.
Yep.
Um, I want somebody who understands numbers and is okay with where the market's at and understanding that things might could have potential of going a little bit lower than what they thought, but also going a little bit higher. The other side of it is I'm I need somebody that's not wrapped up around numbers in their head because the
Sure.
biggest thing I run into, and this is not really part of that elevator speech, but what it is most people say like, oh, for example, I just booked a house last week and their agent was going to list it for 475.
Okay.
And I asked the agent or I asked the seller, I was like, hey, sir, so what are you trying to leave here with? What's your bottom dollar for this? All right. And
Right.
this is part of that elevator speech in a sense, but what's your bottom line for this? And he's like, well, I want to get 475. And I said, sir, that's not possible. And he just looks at me. He's like, well, my agent was going to list it. I was like, yeah, your agent was going to list it for 475, but you weren't going to get 475. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean what I mean? If we do basic math and say 475 minus 10%, that's at best what you were going to get leaving. And he was
Mhm.
like, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, that's 10% is your, let's just say 10% your average cost of sales.
Yep.
He was like, oh, I was like, so we did quick math. Boom. Okay. So this means we need to be somewhere around 425, right? Would be the number that you need to be able to walk away to equal that 475 in a sense, because there's a 10% buyer's premium for the house.
Right.
So the math is no different than listing a house. It's just done backwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it yesterday, where again the auction buyers that I've done with you,
Hmm.
they're typically very like there's not a lot of hurdles, meaning it's
Mm-mm.
because it's people that have the money and they
Yep.
know what they're walking themselves into,
Yep.
but it's the cleaner clients because again that's a lot of money that they had to fork up front because you got to think
Boom.
obviously with our traditional financing, what earnest money 500 1,000 maybe 1,500
Nah.
2,000 maybe at
10%.
that, right? And
10%.
yeah, so it's like you have way more skin in the game, and so obviously they know that's not something to play around with, or like, hey, let me just roll the dice. If I don't like it, I don't like it. It's like, nah, dude, like this is 10%. You don't have a choice
And
but to.
that right there is one of the biggest, and I'll call it a tie down, if you will, or
Yeah.
biggest sales pitch, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
to the sellers that really kind of gets them hooked on this.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that like derogatory, like I'm, trying to swindle them into something. I'm just saying like that's the one thing that really gets them hooked on. They're like, so you're telling me that if you sell my house for 400,000, that dude writes a check for $40,000 right there on the spot. I said, yep. If he's online, then they wire it to the title company. If
Yep.
he's there present, I get a check before he leaves. And that check obviously is not written to me, that's written to a title company as earnest money. And it can be used as earnest money however they want to flush it, skip, however they
Right.
want to deal with it, they can,
Right.
that's earnest money.
Yeah.
But it is 1000% non-refundable to the buyer unless they close, except for one caveat being if we cannot convey on the seller side clear title, which I have title back, all my title work's done and back in my, in my hand, so to say,
Yeah.
within 2 weeks of the auction. So I already know that if we're able to convey clear title. So if there's
Right.
liens, if there's whatever, so I'm able to actually do math to figure out what that guy's or that gal or that family is going to walk away with because I already
Right.
have all the title search.
Yeah.
I have everything back. So I'm able to actually get actual physical numbers, and I'll plug a date in 30 days after we have the auction,
Yeah.
and I can get them to the penny of what they're gonna walk away with before we
Yeah.
even have the auction.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So I think, again, I think a lot of people just coming back to our, our first initial talking point was, a lot of people just don't understand the
Mhm.
auction side. And I don't think they're really receptive because, again, I think it's one way for them to, it's a way for them that they think that they're, that, how do I put this? I think they feel like they are the lower person, meaning they because maybe they can't get it done, and maybe it's a pride thing, right?
Yeah.
But again, you know, again, we play devil's advocate, and I play devil's advocate all the time because I like to see from both sides, and I think that's what helps me be very open minded about things because I don't want to just look at one specific view and then have horse blinders on to where I don't I
Well,
could
and
care less what everybody else
I
says.
I think that's what makes me personally, and there's a lot of other people in my same shoes, but
Yeah,
just, for me personally, I think it kind of makes me a little bit of a uniqueness, and I have a
yeah,
unique point of view,
sure,
because I'm not just an auctioneer, right? That's not just what I do. I'm also a real estate broker who teaches real estate courses and classes, and I run an entire team, and I do a ton of on market traditional real estate.
yeah,
So whenever I go to look at a house, so let me preface it by this: I don't even go look at a house until after so if an agent sends me a referral, right,
sure,
or
sure,
they'll text me or they'll call me, hey Adam, I think I got a house that might work for you, or maybe you might be a good option. And half the time, they'd never even talk to their sellers about it. They're reaching out directly to me, like, "Hey, what do you think?"
right,
So I sit down and I kind of look at it from a bird's eye view, if you will, of just kind of I look at the general numbers, I look at the general house, I look at the, just generality of what it is,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then I've got to kind of go through a check or little checkbox list in my head, if you will. Does it check enough boxes for me to actually talk to the seller?
right,
So then once I look at stuff, I send over basically a list of questions for the agent. I'm like, hey, X, Y, and Z, all these different things I want to know. And I do ask to get in the weeds on things. And so I will know more probably than I'm supposed to know on a lot of times.
right,
But I need to know that information to know if it's worth talking to somebody. Because I need to know what their payoffs are. I need to know all these things, right?
yeah,
Because I need to know like what is this what is the whole spaghetti bowl, that I'm dealing with here.
yeah,
And if all that kind of checks out, then I'll be like, hey, let's go talk to your clients if they're open to it.
right,
So then at that point, they go reach out to their clients. Hey, I got a guy, he's a friend, he does this, that, and the other thing, and I think this might be a valuable option for you if you guys want
yeah,
to hear him out. 9 times out of 10, they don't say no. They're like, yeah, sure, invite him over,
right,
and I'll
yeah,
come over if it's even worth the conversation. But I'm telling you, I have about I get sent probably we'll say on average I get sent 3 houses a week
sure,
to do some homework on.
sure,
And out of 10 of those, I might actually go look at one and talk to the sellers. So I turn down a lot of them just because I tell the agents, look, I think I would, if I was you marketing this house, I would probably pick this direction, or I
sure,
would probably do that, or I'd maybe get better photos, and I end up almost doing like a coaching call for the agent half the time just to be like, look, I think it might be better if you go this way or do that.
yeah,
If I 100% think like this is worth the conversation and time, then I'm down for it. But again, as a unique perspective, me doing equal business on either side, whether it be real estate or auctioning, um, I try to be as transparent and as objective as possible. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
not out to steal anybody's business because here's the thing, guys. I'm still paying listing agents money and I'm still paying buyers agents money.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But
I'm not taking anything from you.
but
I'm able to find a different route of travel to do it. And you guys are taking cell phone photos or you're paying $200 at best for photos for a
right.
house and posting up on the MLS and doing a Facebook post. Guys, I'm
Right.
paying $8,000 just in marketing to get this thing pushed around the world.
But
Like my net is huge compared to yours.
but what if you but that's what I'm saying is I'm wondering what if you when you're talking to agents like this who are trying to
Mhm.
be receptive about it, what if you opened up with that? Meaning, I think a lot of them probably shut you out because they're worried about the check, because they're worried about you're getting cutting out. They're going to lose something. But I think maybe, and maybe do like honestly, like maybe even do something where you can just analyze, just do a poll. Hey, if I presented you with an auction, what what's the first thing that comes to mind from you as a real estate agent? Like, does my check go away? Do I get less money? Am I cut
Yeah.
out of the deal? If I were to bet on it, I would say a driving factor of why a lot of people want to shut it out is because maybe they're more worried about their check because they're worried about you're going to phase them out because essentially, okay, let me be an agent that even if I'm seasoned or not, I I know I've heard of auctions, never been a part of it.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever explained it to me.
Yeah.
But if you come up to me talking to me about the auction and the benefits of it, I can I would probably be more inclined to cut you out because I'm already thinking that I'm going to lose money and I'm going to lose,
Yeah.
I'm losing money on this. And that's not how it should be. And I think maybe if you open with that, saying, hey, auctions maybe a little bit, it's not what you guys think. Look, you're still going to get paid. And here's the math of it, just so you don't
Yeah.
cut me out of because I think that's another a big reason why a lot of real estate agents don't want to entertain it because I mean, sure, from both sides, right? I know from your side, I mean the speed, like it's a speed factor. Like you
Mhm.
can't if the seller's in a pinch and they need to sell ASAP, sometimes an auction and they got the equity, sometimes the auctions probably makes a hell of a lot more sense than just sitting on the market for 65 days.
Well, and
Right.
when I say equity too, and that's almost like people think like, oh, you're going to sell it short. You know, I mean,
Right.
that's not exactly what I need a buffer room to play with is what I
Sure.
need. Because, and what I mean by equity also is, so I've been reached out. I've had, I don't know, 5 or 6 phone calls last month
Right.
from agents that have clients that are basically facing, they're beginning the foreclosure
Sure.
or starting it. So basically, they're in that short
Short
sell
sale. Yep.
kind of period right now,
Mhm.
which to be honest is not a bad place to be if you have the equity, right? If you have enough room to play with. But if you're telling me you bought a house a year ago, you know, and you
Right.
paid top dollar for it a year ago, and you're like, hey, I need to sell this house, and it's I've only got 10 grand to play with, you know, why then you have to almost look at, okay, dude, here's the thing. It's no different qualifying you for the auction as it is for a listing. I couldn't sell that house without you bringing money to the table. Fair?
Right.
Like
Right.
there's no way that you would end up paying out of pocket to get the house gone.
Sure.
It's going to do the same thing on the auction side because again, there's a 10% buyer's premium. So if it stops at, we'll say it stops at 300,
Yeah.
right? Well, that means the buyer pays 330 as a purchase price.
Right.
Well, it's no different if you listed it at 330 and then you walked away with 300,
300. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like the math's not different. So you're just doing it backwards than what you would normally do it.
Right.
So again, if you're like, I bought this house for 300 last year and it's worth 310 today.
Right.
Well, that means that somebody would have to pay 20 grand over that house, what it's even worth for you to walk away. Does that kind of make sense? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't work. Nobody's going to pay 20 grand over, especially in the market we're in right now, where they're paying 20 grand under, you
Yeah.
know, for everything. Like
Right.
that doesn't, that's what I mean by equity. Like
Sure.
it's not that we're going to give your house away or sell it for pennies. It's
Right.
because the market right now, the way it is, it's just not, we're not booming. We're not, we have
Yeah.
plenty of inventory. There's no drive to bid over anything.
Right. No,
So,
and I think that brings up a good point though. It's understanding the market and maybe auctions become a little bit more common as maybe things heat up. Again, like let's just say pull yourself back when the rates were the twos and threes.
mhm.
And, you know, obviously it wasn't a big thing at the time of like, getting your house under contract. But again, maybe for
Oh
those
yeah.
unique but maybe for those unique properties or maybe some of those that again, maybe those people are trying to unload, right?
Well,
Because like,
even the houses that were so back in, we'll say, the crazy times, right? So back
sure.
with COVID, when everything was nutty,
Yeah, where people were
um,
stabbing each other for a house. Yeah.
for real, right?
Yeah.
Like so, um, the real estate auction market kind of almost went away,
Sure.
just because that's basically what was happening, as everybody was in
Right.
multiple offers, anyways.
Yeah.
But at the same token, hear me out. I think you could have gotten a lot more for houses,
Sure.
certain houses. If you would have brought them to auction, even during that time, you would have got more money.
Yeah.
And the
Because
reason
it's the
why
bidding war. Yeah.
is it's the bidding war and it's the advertisement, right?
Sure.
Because again, so the auction works off of really one main thing, but really it's two main things.
Sure.
One is going to be a prospect of a deal, right? That's what everybody thinks, they want a prospect of a deal. It's not really a deal, but it's a prospect of a deal.
Right.
And the other side of it is our advertising. At least when it comes to the real estate side of it, it's the
Sure.
advertising, man. That just it boom, it sets it on fire, man. Because like I said a minute ago, the average real estate agent might pay a total of $400, $500 for a listing. You know what I mean,
Right.
for photos and marketing.
Yeah.
Maybe they pay that much, dude.
Right.
I'm spending 5 grand,
Yeah.
like off the rip. I'm spending 5 grand on marketing, and that's getting it. So we're putting it, so it goes on the MLS because I have access to the MLS. So I put it on the
Yep.
MLS. It goes onto our website, which we have like, I don't know, 500,000, or maybe not that many, maybe 250,000 people on our freaking mailer list that get
Sure.
an automatic flyer for it. We syndicate it to a place called highbid.com, which is the largest online auction platform in the world.
Sure.
So it goes out there. I pay a bunch extra money to make sure that it gets put out there, and its top flyers or everyday emails that house is up there. So that everybody, the 2 billion people that have that freaking mailer list, automatically gets it.
Right.
We have two different marketing companies that work for us. One that markets, to be honest, one of them that only specifically markets to blue states. So we're marketing specifically to places that are selling big money houses and moving to Tennessee.
Right.
So we're literally actively target marketing these areas.
Yeah.
And then
Like
I
the
have
little
another
migration
company.
states. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And it needs to even nail down to counties
Right.
because of the data that the people are leaving and moving and selling stuff. So, I mean, we are actively targeting. And then we have another person out of Florida that markets for us, and she's really focused on Tennessee as a whole.
Right.
So again, and then they do Google ad campaigns. They do all kinds of crap, man.
Right. Right. Right.
Like I don't they do all kinds of stuff. But we're averaging, so like our last couple houses, we were averaging about 100 and 115 somewhere in there, 1,000 views in just 2 weeks.
Damn.
So, and that view is not just like, oh, they scrolled past it. It's like they clicked on it, went to the website. They had to stay on the website so long. They got to click on something else. Like that made them so 100,000 plus people in 2 weeks are looking at these things.
Right.
So when we have 12 or 15 registered bidders online, and then we have 20 people in the parking lot or whatever,
Right. Right.
these are real live qualified bidders.
Right.
So it's not the looky loos that go in there and kick on the stove and peeing on the carpet and like looking at your house. Like it's not, dude. Like these are real. Like they're ready to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what's the amazing thing about it, which is really so cool, is it takes like 8 to 10 minutes to sell a house. That's it.
Right.
We get up, we have some terms and conditions, blah 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 blah. This is what you're buying. Have fun. Boom. We start bidding. And then within 5, 6 minutes, half the people in the parking lot have already got in the car and left because they already got outbid.
Right.
And then you're left with like these 3 or 4 or 5 people out front, and they're bidding back and forth. And all of a sudden, boom, you land on your last guy. 400 going once, 400 going twice. Boom, sold to this guy over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and it's done in like 10 minutes.
Right.
And then we
No.
sit down, we do some paperwork, and it's done, son.
Yeah. No, I think those are some pretty good points, man. And I think again, overall, I think it can be a very good option, a very viable option. It's really just kind of like, you and I talk about. It's it it fits certain people. It's not going to
Mhm.
fit every single situation. Um,
Not even remotely.
right, right. So, but no, I think you shed some good light on auctions. And I think kind of moving forward, it'd be pretty cool to kind of have you back on, like even when the market maybe starts picking up, to kind of
Hmm.
see any kind of trends. Like, hey, because maybe rates have cooled off and maybe things have started picking up again. Do you see a trend where maybe auctions not as busy as it used to be as it is now versus, maybe when we get even slightly busy, not even
Yeah.
like not saying, hey, 2 and 3% busy, but I'm saying, hey, maybe the rates dropped into the fours, maybe fives, and now things are slowly starting to pick up, you know, do people start second guessing? So it'd be pretty cool to kind of do like hey, we're doing one at the beginning of the year. And if things change throughout the year, let's see, do a little follow up.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good to kind of recap that too and kind of
Yeah.
look for analysis purposes.
Right.
I'd be curious because I mean, I could argue both sides, if you will.
Sure.
It really just 100%, man. It just comes down to what it is.
Yeah.
Like, what is that house?
Yep.
Again, a house that's in good shape. There's nothing wrong with it at all. In the middle of Farmington,
Yeah.
guys, I would not want to take that job. I really just, I don't see the point in it because
Right.
you've got 100 comps in that little neighborhood, right?
Right.
But if you get a house that maybe it's a little bit messed up and they don't
Yeah.
want to do and I'm not saying like it's trash, like maybe they just don't want to do anything, maybe they just
Right.
don't want to do anything to it.
Yeah.
Let's auction it.
Yeah.
If you've got a house that's on a farm or on a big, or just it's just really hard to comp and it's awkward,
Right.
let's have that conversation.
You know what's really
You know
awkward? That you
what's that?
still haven't listed my truck for auction.
Well, look, I
Listen,
told you, look, I gave you a price.
listen, I told you, listen,
Look,
you bring me somebody who's willing to pay 70K for my truck, I'll give you half my proceeds.
I'll tell you what, here's the deal. Well, I got a Corvette, I got an auction. I got to figure out. I got to build an auction. So I got to build an auction. I need to do it. I need to start advertising for a what do you call it? Consignment auction.
Yeah.
I got like 10 lawnmowers. I got to sell for a guy. All riding lawnmowers. I got a Corvette, like a 1991, I think Corvette, like in
Hey,
mint condition.
are those lawnmowers? Are they zero turns?
I think one or two miss. Actually, I actually have
Huh.
when is it? So the one we're cataloging next week, starting Monday,
Yep.
there's a zero turn in it. That's the one that has that Chevy 2500 in it. That one's got
Uh,
almost new. It's got one. It's been ran for one season. It's got like 50 hours on it.
really?
Well, at least that's what he tells me. There's no hour counter, but I have the receipt of when he bought it, and he bought it basically last March.
Oh,
So
okay.
it can't have more than like 50 hours on it. It can't.
Okay.
So so there's that one. It's a zero
Okay.
turn.
Okay.
It's got a 2500 Chevy, old like late 90s, early 2000s. You know, like kind of when they started rounding out the bodies a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what year it is, but there's a single cab 2500. He's got some trailers, like yard trailers, and one little cargo trailer. Bunch of tools, well, not a bunch, but some household stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do his house. His house is out in Adams on about 2.5 acres.
Nice.
But here's the thing. So it's in a Clarksville side of Adams. So it's
Okay.
Clarksville address,
Right.
but you know what I mean.
It's still considered like in Adams. So because
Yeah,
like
yeah,
here's
yeah.
what I've come to learn is like in Adams, it's the further you go out, it's like Robertson County,
Yep.
and then but the closer you are, like obviously to Singo, it's like
It's
all right, you're
Montgomery.
in. Yep. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's off of I can't Trust uh Trough
Trough
Springs.
Springs. Trough Springs.
So if you it's on can't think what the name of the road is, but it's like 5 minutes down. So if you take Old Single Road
Yep.
down, you hit that four-way for Trout Springs, you can go left or right.
Hmm.
Make a left, like going towards Adams.
Okay.
And it's literally like 5 miles down the road, and you make a right, and then it's just a couple minutes off that road.
Oh. Okay.
So I mean, it's still in Montgomery County. It's just but it's Adams,
Okay.
and it's a older. I say older. It's not that old, but it's a older farmhouse. like Cape Cod farmhouse. It's
Nice.
actually pretty cool. So it's got two primary suites on either end of the house on the
Oh,
bottom floor, which is pretty
nice.
cool.
Yeah,
And then upstairs, there's two rooms upstairs, but it's got two actual primary suites
that's
downstairs.
that's pretty cool.
It's
Very
actually,
cool.
yeah, it's kind of different. Um, got a little
Well,
shop. It's got a lot of cool stuff, man.
cool. Well, all right, dude. Well, I know you gotta get ready to go, but um, like I said, I'll blast this on YouTube and have it on Spotify. I'll send you the copy. But yeah, man,
Are you
we'll
gonna
link
are you
up.
gonna put on our YouTube page too?
Yeah, the Clarksville, the
Real
real estate
estate
adventure.
edition?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll throw it on there too. Yeah.
Put on that one.
Yep.
We got to keep up with that one.
I know. I know.
We've
And you know
been
what?
we've
You
been
know,
lacking.
I checked it the other day. You
Huh?
believe it or not, we have. Do you know how many subscribers we have? Even though we did nothing to advertise for it. We have like 33.
That's pretty amazing. We need to really pump into that.
But which is crazy because I was looking, I was like, you know what? Let me just look in here. I was like, wait, how do we have 33? I was like, where do they come from? I was like, we haven't even posted on it in a while. I was like,
Who
all
cares,
right,
man? Who
yeah,
cares? Keep it
yeah.
going.
So, but all right, dude. Well, I'll catch you later. But I'll send you the link when it's done.
All right, man.
All right, later.
Beef, I had to let it be. Spend a lot of time wasting energy. That ain't make sense to me logically. But I feel way better when I walk in peace. Please don't bring the gossip.